Hi again, everybody, and welcome to our first Bengals training camp report in 2020. It's brought to you by Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm Dan Hoard, along with my broadcast partner Dave Lapham and Bengals.com editor Geoff Hobson. And the Joe Burrow era is about to begin. We're all excited about it. We know that you are too. And Lap, let's start with an obvious question that I think a lot of people are wondering right now, and that is, how do you get Joe Burrow ready for his rookie season under these unusual circumstances?
Yeah, Dan. Well, one thing that these unusual circumstances benefited Joe Burrow is that absolutely no possibility of a dead arm. You know, he played a national championship game. His regular season was the longest it could possibly be. You know, and then a lot of times guys are throwing, getting ready for the combine. Well, he didn't participate in the combine anyway. And then they're going to throw it at, pro days, workout days. They're throwing. A lot of teams that have rookie quarterbacks are fearful of the dreaded dead arm about halfway through their rookie season. No way Joe Burrow is going to experience anything close to a dead arm. So as far as that aspect of it goes, I would let him take as many reps as he possibly can. I would even let him take additional reps post-practice, work on timing and that sort of thing with his receivers, find out where they like the football, how they like the football, because, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to, fatigue his arm, overuse. But the dead arm deal, for the entire offseason, that's no factor. So I do think that they're going to probably give him as many reps as possible, and repetition is going to breed comfort level. He's the guy. So, I think he's going to get more reps maybe than any starting quarterback in the National Football League, because he's one of the few rookie starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. And I think they're going to allow him to do that physically because of what we just talked about, him not having done everything in the offseason that they normally do as rookies coming into the National Football League at the quarterback position. And the more reps he gets mentally, the better off he's going to be, because that's where he's sharp anyway. He said at the combine, my game's all about from the neck up. I don't have a howitzer for throwing arm. My game's all about the mental part of football.
All right, Butch. Yesterday, head coach Zach Taylor did a Zoom call with the media. He spent about 16 minutes answering questions about the team. And you asked him about the possibility of quarantining one of the quarterbacks. And there are reports out there today that the Bengals are possibly signing veteran Brandon Allen, who started 3 games for the Denver Broncos last year. What could quarantining a quarterback look like?
First, it's good to see you guys. And second of all, I don't know what it looks like. I keep imagining a quarterback stashed away in an extended stay watching Mr. Ed or something while the other team is while everybody else is practicing. And I think this is a work in progress, Dan. I think they're looking at it from several angles, and the good thing is they have 5 weeks to figure it out. But do you maybe keep 2 on the active roster? Do you keep Burrow away from Finley? Do you stash 2 on the practice squad and keep them away from each other? But I think this opens up another question. How do you practice? Do you keep the first team away from the second team? Because what if you have a surge and you're knocking everybody out? So do you practice for an hour with the first team and then another hour with the second team? And I think already they've got the locker room kind of already divided up where they don't have the entire offensive line dressing together, the entire receiving corps dressing together. So they're trying to do that already. But I think that stuff I've asked the question, haven't got an answer, which is the way it's been going since March 13th. So I think we might have to wait on that one a little bit.
Well, let's talk about some of the storylines going into this particular training camp. There are always things that we look forward to seeing and that fans look forward to seeing for the first time. Lap, let's start with you. Give me something that you are really excited to see at this training camp.
Well, let's start with the offense. I guess I'll talk offense. And first of all, we're talking about Joe Burrow. Obviously excited about seeing what he's actually going to look like out there on the football field. He was 2 seasons at LSU, a 25-3 record, including 15-0. This past season, national championship, Heisman Trophy, everything that goes along with it. But with that said, participated in the SEC, want to build a winning culture, participated in the highest level of competition, wins the Heisman Trophy, undefeated team, national championship. That's big. That's big. You got him at the quarterback position. Go back to last year's draft. Jonah Williams, the 11th pick of the draft, didn't play last year. Joe Burrow, the number 1 pick of this draft. Jonah Williams, the 11th pick of last year's draft, didn't play. Same thing. 3 national championship appearances in his 3 years at Alabama. They won one in 2017. And Joe Burrow won his in 2019. So Jonah Williams competed at the highest level and winning program at the highest level, building that winning atmosphere, that winning culture. These two guys. T. Higgins, 33rd pick of the draft. A lot of people say top 20 pick of a draft, maybe top 25. Bengals get him at 33. So in the last 2 drafts, the Bengals get 3 of the top 33 players in the country. And maybe even better than that. I think T. Higgins was probably a higher pick than the 33rd pick. He wins the national championship in 2018 at Clemson. So you got these young new components to an offensive football team, all 3 of them involved with national championship winning teams, and Clemson, on the cusp of national championship multiple times. Same with Alabama. So Marvin Lewis had this philosophy. Go find players that competed at the highest level collegiately, and I know the scouting department has the same mindset, the highest level of competition. Not only the highest level of competition, but the greatest success you can possibly achieve at the highest level of competition, that's a national championship. And they have 3 different players from 3 different schools, 3 straight years, who are part of national championship teams, part of this new offense. The left tackle, the quarterback, and one of the wideouts. That's pretty big. I'm very interested to see how it all unfolds.
Butch, your turn. What are you looking forward to watching at this training camp?
Hoard, I got to say that I like your choice of books, by the way. Yeah. No, Lapp makes some great points with those. I haven't thought about that before. All those national championship caliber guys on offense. I'm looking at defense. I'm looking at the linebackers because you guys know, for the last 3 years, it's almost been they've been like non-existent. They haven't been like almost part of the defense, and they really went big time to try and upgrade in the draft with Wilson and Davis Gaither back-to-back in the 3rd and 4th rounds. They went out and got Josh Bynes in Baltimore. So that's going to be an entirely different room. What I'm wondering is, how do they get them ready? No preseason games. When are they going to hit? How are they going to practice, getting in the hole? Because to me, that's been, and Lapp can talk about this, about how the tackling has been, they had to be the worst tackling team in the league the last couple of years. Terrible. How are they going to get better? And you got rookies stepping into a pro game, which, from the college game, and I don't care where you play in college now, it's 7-on-7. I don't know how much you're tackling compared to the pros. So I'm really anxious to see how Wilson and Akeem respond. Love to see Bynes in here. I think he's the perfect mentor that this club has needed at that spot. Pratt, I think, came on at the end of the last month of the year. Pratt showed a lot of things. So really, and I know they were really happy to get Wilson. They thought they weren't going to get him. I know they were looking at the kid from Texas. That didn't happen, and I think they almost lost themselves late in the 2nd round when they thought they were going to lose him. So let's see what happens at linebacker.
We will get to Lapp talking about how to get ready for the physical nature of football in just a second. But first, I want to share what I'm looking forward to seeing at this training camp, and that is A.J. Green. I just want to watch A.J. Green again. He's so graceful. He's so great to watch. And I think, like all of us, I want to see if he's the old A.J. Green or if he looks like an old A.J. Green. I think it's going to be the former. I expect him to look as good as ever. And if that's the case, just think about how much that's going to add to this offense. He's averaged 80 receiving yards per game in his career. That's 7th best in NFL history. It's better than Jerry Rice, better than Marvin Harrison, better than Randy Moss. 5+ catches and 80 yards a game, and that would go so far. to helping Joe Burrow in his rookie season. When you combine AJ with Tyler Boyd in his back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. John Ross had more than 500 receiving yards in half a season last year. You add T. Higgins. Lap talked about him a moment ago. Don't forget Auden Tate and Alex Erickson. Each of those guys had more than 40 catches and more than 500 yards last year. So this is a great group led by A.J. Green. All right, Lap, let's get to the topic that Butch mentioned, and that is, how do you possibly get ready for this physical game with only 14 padded practices and the first one not coming until August 17th?
Yeah, Dan, that's a great question. And just to add to your thought about A.J. Green, how many teams can say they're going to get a wide receiver back that is a smooth route runner, runs precise routes, one of the best route runners in football, plus could take the top off the defense, all in one guy, one person? I agree with you. A.J. Green makes that offense totally different for Joe Burrow and everybody else that we talked about. But how do you get guys ready? Well, in my opinion, you have to go back a little bit old school in those 14 practices. When we had two-a-days, we'd have 8 weeks of two-a-days, 6 preseason games. And we'd do live run in the morning, live pass in the afternoon, be it live pass protection with stunts and twists and all that sort of thing, live one-on-ones. Same thing in the running game. Live one-on-ones, live half-line drill, live 7-on-7, everybody involved except the wideouts in the corners. So, I mean, do you incorporate some of that? I think you almost have to. I think, with 14 padded practices, there's part of, you can run, you can lift, you can condition, you can look pretty. I mean, you can look like, man, you're on the cover of Bodybuilder magazine, but you're not in football shape. Football shape comes from pushing, pulling, contact, tendons, ligaments, attachments, getting those in shape. Guys say after the very first contact, I can remember vividly, very first contact, waking up in the morning, oh, man, rigor mortis has set in, I got to get up and start moving around. Stiffness, soreness. The only way you can get in football shape is to do some contact. And you're not going to have contact in preseason games. The only place you can have some contact is in the practices. Now, make it controlled contact, but with this virus, the reason there are no preseason games is because of the coronavirus. So at practice, if you're going to be all over each other, snorting, spitting, snorting, and everything all over each other, how are you protecting the players from the coronavirus? So it's a hell of a problem. It's a hell of a thing to try to balance, but I think they're going to have to. I don't think they're going to have, very many. It's not going to be an extended period, if any, 11-on-11 tackling, taking people to the ground. But they're going to have to tackle. They're going to have half-line drills or something to get linebackers, defensive linemen, safeties, corners, everybody getting used to taking people to the ground. There's no other way to do it. If they don't, it's like going into the opening night of a play with no dress rehearsal. And, man, you're going to feel naked out there. The first time somebody's in space against, a great running back in that opener and they haven't tackled once, man, that's brutal. That's asking a lot. So I think the level of play will stink in the first three or four games of the season. The first month of the season may be like, not even preseason games in terms of technique and guys doing things that they, normally do. So I think if they don't have any contact, there's going to be a little bit of ramp up there. And I think that veteran coaches like a Bill Belichick, he was around coaching when they had what I'm talking about. Live run in the morning, live pass in the afternoon. Some of these veteran coaches will just go back. They keep all of their practice routines and schedules. They keep them all. They'll go back and say, oh, how did I do it? What did I do? Okay, here's what the practice format looked like. And Zach can talk to coaches that went through it, like his father-in-law, Mike Sherman. He went through it when he was a head coach in the NFL and head coach in college football at A&M in Green Bay, in Miami. And Zach said, I'll go back to what we did when I was in college. He experienced it as a player. So I think there is going to be going back a little bit of old school, incorporating a little bit more contact and bringing people to the ground and all those types of things than there's been in the past, because that's the only place they're going to be able to get it.
Final thing, Butch, there's never been a training camp like this, but you wrote a column recently that did draw a comparison to the 2011 season when the Bengals went from 4-12 the year before to making the playoffs at 9-7?
I'm fired up. Football is officially here because Lap said rigor mortis. So I mean that's But you guys actually, Hoard, it was your first year. It was your first year with Lap in 2011, and the interesting thing there, I think, is going back to AJ Green. What you and Lap were talking about, AJ Green. AJ Green thought he was going to have Chad Johnson with him. He didn't. Chad got traded the day before camp began, and rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver. They had never seen the playbook. There's a little bit of there are some similarities. Now, the biggest thing, of course, is there's not a virus. They don't have the experienced offensive line. They don't have a top 10 defense yet. Those were things they relied on, but they got through it. And one of the reasons that I think that they got going for him this year is AJ Green has AJ Green. T. Higgins has AJ Green. He can lend that experience. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's the only guy. I think Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray are the only guys that have had wide receivers who have been that prolific, overall number one picks. Guys who are quarterbacks drafted overall number one since 1967. Larry Fitzgerald and AJ Green are the most prolific guys for those quarterbacks. I think Green is going to be huge because he didn't have an AJ Green in 2011. I think that will really help Burrow because, like AJ said, he and Dalton were kind of just throwing it up in the air. Should be a little bit more sophisticated than that now.
And 2011, of course, was a lockout year, so no off-season program, much like this year. Bengals will have to get ready for the season in these 14 padded practices beginning in a few weeks. That's going to do it for our first training camp report. For Dave Lapham and Geoff Hobson, I'm Dan Hoard. Thanks for checking it out. Brought to you by Medical Mutual here on Bengals.com.